Sir, I don't think that's healthy. Seize him. Hey there, everybody. Football season started, which means summer is now officially over. This summer, I actually did a lot of cool things, like go up north and repaint my bedroom. I think we messed up. But the most important thing I did this summer was get a job at a local Michigan pizza shop known as Little Caesars, which is what we're talking about in this video. Now, as a pizza-loving Midwesterner, you would think I probably was born with plans to work at Little Caesars, but actually Little Caesars was not my first choice in jobs. Honestly, the only criteria I had for what my job could be was ideally I'd like to make money, it had to be within a 10-mile radius of my house, and also it'd be cool to maybe have a job where I can interact with girls my age, so maybe I have a better chance of getting a girlfriend, maybe. The last guy in there dropped a real bomb. I'm gonna need some help cleaning. With this criteria in mind, I applied to many places like the movie theater, the local parks, a gym, a Little Caesars, a golf course. However, similarly to every girl I've ever asked out, every job either rejected me due to lack of qualifications or just didn't reply. In fact, my employment status was looking really not promising until one day I got a text from the Little Caesars regional manager asking me for an interview. Now, being honest, Little Caesars was probably my last choice out of the jobs I applied for, but beggars can't be choosers and also free pizza, so I agreed to go in for an interview. Now, this was my first ever interview, and honestly, I was pretty nervous because I don't know how fancy the interviewing process at Little Caesars is. Do you like pizza? Yes? The day the interview happened to be a day that was pouring rain, so when I walked into Little Caesars drenched and in a Costco shirt, I was not exactly the most employable looking person. Despite that, I was taken back by the Little Caesars regional manager into the most sacred room of every Midwestern establishment, the room where they store all the pop, and he began to ask me a multitude of questions. For example, why do you want a job? Money. Why did you choose Little Caesars? Pizza. Do you have a criminal record? No, unless you count stealing the hearts of Lady Way, I stink at that too. The interview took about 15 minutes, and by the end of the interview, I was officially employed. Now, despite being hired, I was still keeping my options open in case another job decided to reply to me. But eventually, I completely committed to Little Caesars when I found out some of the perks I got. Because despite the fact that I was only getting paid a tad above minimum wage, I got free pizza, I could wear a Red Wings hat to work, and anything from the hot and ready menu that sat for more than 30 minutes at the end of the night, which is basically everything on Tuesdays, I could take home without paying. As well as the perks, I also figured how hard could this job be? I mean, you take some orders, you make some pizza, you hack the manager to death on the Ides of March, easy peasy. Can I have vacation on the 28th? But the workload was a lot more than I expected, especially because 40% of our work staff didn't show up. Now, my coworkers that did show up were real cool, and I have nothing bad to say about them besides the fact that our music tastes didn't exactly link up. I think your music is bringing down morale. I'm sorry. But my coworkers that didn't show up, I didn't like whatsoever, because the way Little Caesars works is it's divided into stations, and the stations I mainly did were taking stuff out of the oven / packaging and managing the register, which alone weren't that hard, but when 6 people are scheduled and only 2 besides you show up, I had to do both of those at the same time, and that wasn't exactly pretty. Are you on fire? Yeah. Now, when everyone showed up, you only did 1 station at a time, and although I did a ton of stations, the one I mainly did were the 2 aforementioned packaging or register. Packaging was definitely the harder of my 2 main jobs because you had to be fast and were working with burning hot items. Now, in my time at the packaging job, I got burned many times, but they weren't due to the oven, they were actually due to cutting pizza. Because when you have to cut at Mach 10 speed, sometimes the superheated sauce under the cheese decides to splash your skin and burn you. Another common battle I had was being incapable of taking thin crust pizzas out of the oven, and every time I would try it would get ruined. How could I have ruined such a beautiful item? But despite these challenges, by the time I quit I could assemble a pizza box in 2.4 seconds, so that's kinda cool. Register overall was the easier job because you just had to deal with people up front, and 90% of those people were weed heads from across the street, customers from the Indian market next door, and old ladies, and they all tipped well, so that wasn't bad. On a pizza? That's about all I have to say about Little Caesars. Most of my time there was spent trying to make the day go by faster, so I don't really miss much besides my coworkers, the free pizza, and the rush you get when you stand in the fridge for 30 seconds and then stand by the oven. It was a good experience, though, and I'm glad I got it. Thanks for watching.